I am with Pastor Josh from C3 NYC, the man, the myth, the legend. I personally think he has the best name of all time. I don't know though. How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. It's good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I just been watching your guys' content from afar. My girlfriend and I just look at you and Georgie as such a great model of a relationship. So thank you so much. I honor you as just an amazing leader and amazing man. So
Thank you.
to be an
It's
honor.
very kind.
Just to kind of dive in, as a leader, um, obviously who's in ministry, a pastor leads different communities and different spaces of different areas. Um, just kind of inform the viewers who might not know a little bit about C3 or C3 NYC, like who you are, what do you do, what the C3 global movement is.
Yeah, for sure. So C3 started in 1980 with my pastor, Pastor Phil Pringle in Sydney, Australia. Just a couple people in a surf club on the northern beaches of Sydney, and they got a vision and a heart to plant churches around the world. And fast forward 40 years later, and there's, I think, just shy of about 600 churches worldwide from that one vision. And I was blessed because I grew up in the church, the first church in C3. My parents joined Pastor Phil about 2 weeks after they started in 1980. I was born in 1981. So basically my whole upbringing was just in this amazing kind of move of God that was happening in Sydney. And so all I knew, full of grace, just, very relational, non-religious, and very strong in faith and leadership and apostolic leadership. And so from a young age, I think something was just put in my heart in terms of the importance of the church, reaching a new generation, reaching people in a creative way. And so a lot of the stuff that we're doing in New York City is just very, I guess, intuitive for me, because what I've been around my whole life, it's just expressing itself differently, 40 years later, now in 2020.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I know that obviously, like, I follow you guys on social media and stuff, just being able to watch it from afar, and it's just so cool. Even hearing from my pastor Jesse, about what you guys are doing, and even the C3 Global movement, just being able to like listen to Pastor Jurgen. He came and preached in February, and just
Amazing.
hear him, and I was like, this guy is a communicator and a half.
100%.
He's
The
got
best voices.
I was just gonna say that. I don't know how many voices he has, but it's impressive.
Exactly.
So obviously we're kind of in a weird season as a global church, but also just as a local church. What are some things you, as a lead pastor, have just been focusing on with, obviously we're not stopped, the church has not stopped, but just we're obviously not being able to meet in community spaces. So what are some things that you've been focusing on?
Yeah, I think each day and each week has been a different focus. Week 1 to 4 is just like absolute chaos, like getting everything online and restructuring and just trying to support. And so I think there's a lot of focus on shepherding, pastoral care, and then just keeping people connected online. I think now, 6-7 weeks later, or even 8 weeks later, the shift for me has been, okay, we're in this for some time. This is not a sprint. We're not going to be able to get back to meeting the way we were before COVID. And even if we would, it's like very limited, everyone's spaced out. And so I think the question now for churches and leaders is, okay, do you want to rush back to gathering and do it in that way? And the question, well, the answer might be yes, partially, but that's not going to really solve the long-term issue of being a church. And so, but then on the other side, I think just having online experience on Sunday is also not the full picture. So really where my head's at is discipleship. How do we really equip and train? We talk about discipleship pre-COVID all the time, and we talk about going deeper and really strengthening relationships, strengthening our knowledge in the word and prayer, our devotion, our private devotion to God. And so this, I think, is such a beautiful time where we can really figure out training programs and pathways of discipleship to really fill in gaps in all of our walks, because all of us are so busy, so to speak. Our schedules are full. The things that we really need to focus on in our walk with the Lord are constantly neglected because we're just going from one event to the next.
Right.
And, you know, you have those feelings at the end of a Sunday or during a worship moment. You're like, this week, God, I'm going to read my Bible back to front. Like, I'm going to spend 4 hours every day in prayer. You know, you have these like devotion moments from Sunday services. And as we know, that doesn't necessarily happen for all the believers.
Right.
So how do we actually, and that necessarily isn't the answer, but the point is there's a sense and a longing by the Holy Spirit, a conviction in young leaders and members of a church. They want to go deeper. The Holy Spirit's calling them deeper. So how do I as a leader, how do I as a pastor help them go deeper? And rather just as a pastor thinking about, okay, when are we going to get back to meeting? While we have this time, how do I help each individual member of our church get deeper in their love for God and therefore their love for one another and become disciples?
Yeah, it's so good. Like, I feel like I've had so many conversations with even individual, like people that are on our leadership team of just like, I feel like there's a difference with some of them. It's like, you can tell the difference of what they were attached to almost. Like some of them were attached to getting stuff done on a Sunday or making a Sunday a win. And there's also people who generally want to grow the church and build disciples. So it's just been kind of interesting, just the difference of conversations I'm having just with our team and our people. So even as a father and a husband, what are some things you have individually focused on for your like home life or your personal spiritual life?
Yeah, definitely. I think just trying to maximize this time for my boys. Like there's been times where, you know, we've been playing soccer or we're on the trampoline or we're around the table, and I'm kind of realizing, man, if COVID didn't happen, I would not have had this much time with my 7-year-old and 4-year-old. And these are just like really precious moments in their life. And it hasn't been easy because we're all, you know, in this situation, and those moments of relief in terms of you realize like actually going to work and them going to school is quite healthy, you know, everyone having just a bit of space. But at the same time, life is so full and so busy that, you know, before COVID, it's like you get home, everyone rushes to kind of get homework and dinner done, and then it's like bedtime and then you do it again. And so there isn't that extended period of intentional quality time with each other. And I think this has been a really rich time just to just be present as a dad, you know, and to be really showing them how much I love them and I'm for them. And hopefully they come out of this time remembering like, oh yeah, that's right, COVID-19, that they'll remember that memory, but they'll remember most of all that their mom and dad love them heaps, and that would build them as a stronger individual.
Yeah, that's awesome. I obviously don't have kids and I'm not married, so my time
first things first.
Yeah, it's a little different rhythm, more aligned, just trying to stay focused, get stuff done, but also like spend time with my team and make sure that they're good, they're healthy. I do have a girlfriend, make sure she's good. You can't go on like real dates now, so that's kind of weird, but kind of
get creative.
Right, yeah. So what are some of like your daily rhythms? I love just talking to people about their schedule. Like we've had people on that just talk about like they're a morning person or they're a night person. What does your daily kind of rhythm look like? I know it's weird every day right now, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, there's been like good weeks and bad weeks. You know, it's like some weeks we've been able to keep that rhythm, and then certain things have happened or we've had to like change the way we're doing church, and so that kind of throws out certain things, or you just have a bad week, you know. But generally speaking, it's really important to start with focusing and letting our first thought be around Jesus. And so whatever that looks like, that would be my encouragement to people listening is, you know, what is the first thing you do? And sure, like, you know, make a coffee or like get a spot, and just trying really to change that rhythm and that pattern of, you know, reaching first for your email or your social media or your to-do list, and really letting this time be a time where you change that habit of the rhythm being the first thought I have, the first desire is to be in the presence of Jesus. And so I've just been trying to practice that. And then just, reading, making sure there's space to read, not just Netflix and movies and all that good stuff. This is a great time just to, get back into pouring in content into your heart and your soul, Bible reading, signing up for training stuff from church. So George and I were doing a course at the moment for ourselves called Emotionally Healthy Leadership. And so just trying to look at things in our world and go, you know what, we could really go to work on this. Like we wouldn't have time previously, or we thought we didn't have time, but now we realize we need to make time for it. But it's just a great time to find rhythms of how do we improve ourselves, how do we become better husbands, better leaders, whatever your vocation is. And then the days, here's the key, like the days you have a bad rhythm is what I found is I can't beat myself up. Because then the next day will be, just as bad or worse. Right. And that's what the enemy plays tricks on us, is really to, bring that guilt and condemnation, like, oh, I missed it today. And then you kind of fall into like a 3-day, rhythm that you don't want. And then you finally come out and you kind of reset. So just being like, okay, call it what it is, give it to God, cast your cares about that day, and then reset. His mercies are new today. And I think that's really important for mental health and people that are suffering with anxiety or any depression or heaviness, is to make sure you reset each day. Even if you didn't nail it and you had a bad day, hey, today's a new day. God loves you. He's for you. Just don't carry it. If each day mounts up, you will feel heaviness. It's just inevitable. So you got to make sure you don't bring in yesterday into today.
Right. Yeah. So good. So we have 2 more questions. This is kind of a quick little pivot, but obviously you guys have planted churches. And I just got to be a part of our downtown plant in February. So we were a church for 6 weeks, and then this happened. So talking to a young church planter or maybe a young leader, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I think, so many things that I believe young leaders need in order to understand the importance of church planning and being a leader. I think a big thing that I'm always advising our guys on, whether it's location pastors or a new campus, is the conviction of your calling, which is really like the deep why and the deep motivation, and that sense of calling from God has to be really clear. And you don't want to take on responsibility without that, because you'll be harmful maybe to your leaders above you or even people that you're leading in the long term or even in the short term, because when the going gets tough or you're not seeing the results, or some other opportunity arises, or you get distracted, or there's challenges like this going on, will you stay the course? Will you stay true to the calling? Like, because if you were called, 6 weeks in lockdown shouldn't change your calling. If you truly believe in the location, the campus downtown, then the calling from God, the creator of all things, should bring you through this situation where you're even more fired up when you can do more stuff. And while you're in this, thinking of creative ways, because I'm called, I'm gonna build this any way I can. And so to your pastors, to your leaders, to the people that you're leading, they should sense that sense of calling and conviction, and also that reflects the nature and the heart of God, that we as shepherds and we as leaders, even as young church planners, that they see someone that's faithful, that we're not hirelings as Jesus described. We're not people that just get a wage or get some credit and then we're off to the next thing, but rather we're shepherds that truly lay down our life for the sheep.
Wow. Yeah, it's so good. I think we've talked a lot to our leaders just about like the sense of calling even right now, like because it like I've said it at the beginning, it hasn't changed. Like the church has not stopped. We're still pursuing people. We're still reaching people. Like we
Amen.
have from our Facebook watch parties like lists of people, like new people that have never even walked into our building.
Yes.
But then we also have people who feel super depleted and super just like, I don't feel like I'm making a difference. And so it's been a really challenging but rewarding season, I believe. So final question may or may not be the most important one though. So let's just say I come to New York City and I need a really good cup of coffee. Like I'm not talking about Starbucks. Like I mean a good cup of coffee. Where would you advise me to go?
I'd probably go to Bluestone Lane, which is actually a Melbourne Australian chain, and they do amazing coffee, amazing flat white. So I would take you there, definitely.
Well, that's amazing.
That's probably the most important question you've asked. But.
I honestly, I was waiting the whole time because I've never been, and I'm one of those guys who like says like I'm a big like Yankee fan, like I like New York stuff, but I've just never been to New York. So
well,
now
as soon as this lifts, you got to come out, bro.
Oh, absolutely, I know. So because Georgie has been to Omaha and she preached the house down at City Girl.
I heard. She's fire, bro.
Come on. But seriously, thank you so much for being on. I'm so encouraged.
Thanks, Josh.
You guys. I know Lexi and I look up to you guys a lot just from afar, looking at your guys like IG lives, taking notes. So thank you so much for being on.
No, so honored. Thanks for having me, and love to all the My City family, and love to my friend Jesse. We love you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.